so excited that y'all are here. If it is your first time, there we go. If it is your first time here, I'm so excited that you chose this Sunday to be here. We're gonna have a blast. We got a lot going on today. We're gonna play a game, and then I have a few important announcements for y'all. And then Matt Keeney is gonna be up here for the first part of our series. So now I know yesterday that was a big game. I mean, some noise for the Longhorns, maybe? Some noise for the Longhorns? I'm not even a UT fan. I just thought that would be funny. But like I said, we're gonna play a game. So for this game, I need one boy and one girl. Just one boy, one girl. Kai, get up here. Kai, get up here. I need one girl. Dude, Penelope, get on up here. Let's go. All right, so this game is called toilet paper toss. And how it's gonna work is I got this field goal right here. Does somebody in Kai's small group want to hold this field goal? All right, Lucas, I saw your hands first. I would like to make it clear, we're not moving it around to try to catch them. You just hold it still, all right? So y'all want to pass that back to Lucas? Thanks, guys. So how it's gonna work is we're gonna have a lot of toilet paper. And if you've ever watched a football game, you're gonna be in a center's position, and the center goes like this, and then they have to get it, and you're gonna pass it and try to get as many through the field goal as you can. All right, hold it by the, there we go, that's fine. All right, let's get your toilet paper. Okay. There we go. We got a lot of it. You might want to start opening it up. There we go. We got a lot of toilet paper. Let's make some noise for Kai. There we go. All right, that's all of it. We got a lot of toilet paper up here. So you can get in your stance. You can go to the end of the stage if you want to. Just don't fall off, please. There we go. We'll start opening it. You got it, Lucas. You can hold it up higher if you want, whatever works. All right, Kai. We're going to have a 30-second countdown. You got 30 seconds to do this. You got it, center position, you're going under. All right, on my mark, when I say hut, you start throwing, all right? All right, blue 42, Oklahoma, Omaha, say hut. Throw him, Kai, throw him. Go, Kai, go. Keep it going. He got more. Open it up. Keep him going, dude. Keep going. Is somebody counting? Okay, thanks, guys. You got it, Kai. Let's go. There you go. There you go. You're close. You're close. You got more over here. Little to your left. Little to your left. You're close. You're close. I'm trying to get you toilet paper. Just keep throwing them. There you go. He's got our rapid fire. Did we ever get our 30-second timer going? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I think that was good. I think that was 30 seconds. Might have been a little more. We'll see. That was good. Great job, Kai. How many? I got 2, guys. I got 2. Guy got a solid 2 points. My judges in the back. All right, Penelope, are you ready? Does somebody in her small group want to hold the field goal? Does anybody want to hold field goal? Or we can just keep it there. Okay, we'll keep it there. We'll keep it there. All right. Do we have the timer ready? Dude, if you win, you're good. As long as you win, you're good. That'd be embarrassing. He got 2. He got 2. So you got to get more than 2. Let's hold the field goal up straight. All right, do we have the timer ready? All right, we are going to wait until the timer is ready. There is no timer. All right. I'll just count down from 30. All right, Bryce, start the timer when I say go. All right, when I say hut. When I say hut. All right, blue 42, Omaha, Oklahoma, set hut. All right, tell me when, Bryce. Oh, no. Hold the goal up, hold the goal up. Hold up the goal. Hold up the goal. Just keep it going. Just keep it going. Just keep it going. Just don't throw them at her. Do not throw the toilet paper at her. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and that is it. That was good. You did great. You did great. Kai, you want to come collect your prize? You got some. We got some treats for our freshman, sophomore guys. Sophomore guys. Let's make some noise for Kai. There we go. There you go. There you go, Kai. Great job. Enjoy those football-themed cookies. Those are great. Now, like I said, I got a couple announcements for y'all of what's to come. So, all right, boys. All right, boys. So next week, everybody that's in here, I want to see y'all back here next week. And Jessica Watson is going to be up here for the next part of our series. And we'll have some Bush's chicken. Who likes Bush's chicken? I like Bush's chicken. And then the week after that, our very own Jen Mazzola will be up on stage for part 3. And we'll have some pizza here. Who likes pizza? I like pizza. Well, and then that week we will have a huge announcement that you do not want to miss. You definitely want to be there. And now, with all that being said, Matt Keeney is going to be up here for the first part of our series.
Hey, thanks. Hey, I have a question to start. Does anybody want $5? Yeah! All right. How about you right here? $5, I'll Venmo you if you come clean all the toilet paper off the stage. There you go. Y'all make some noise for him. There we go. Here we go. I'll give another $5 for somebody who can help. How about that? Summer, come on. There we go. It's good. Keep the toilet paper. Don't throw it up here. I'm not going to give you $5 of my money. Absolutely not, Colby. Sorry, buddy. Oh, that's good. Hey, let me see a number. 5 being like you had the best week of your life, okay, at school. 5 being that. 0 being like it was an awful week. Where'd you guys land? Okay, a couple 2s. Gia had a 5. That's awesome. Trent's at a 4. That's great. Cool. 3 right here. Seems like 3 is the average, so that is good, y'all. That is good. All right. There you go. That's good. Who won that game? Yeah, sophomores did? That's good. I'm gonna throw it back to you. All right. Hello. Sorry. All right. We feel good? Thank you, buddy. Hey, y'all find me afterwards. I'll Venmo you guys. Cool. Y'all give them a round of applause for cleaning all the toilet paper. That's good. All right. So last night, here's what's so crazy. All week, I was thinking, man, this is what I want to talk about at Inside Out. This is the thing I want to talk about. And then last night, it all changed for me. And really, I want to talk about how Texas is officially back, right? Texas is back. Here's the scoreboard right here. Texas is back. It's happening. Woo! It's here. If you're an Aggie fan, I'm so glad that you're in church today. It is so good to see you guys here. Welcome. Hey, did you guys know that our friend Jen Mazzola, who's going to be up here in a couple weeks, she's a Bama fan. Okay, so if you're a UT fan, make sure to go talk to her today. You're getting booed. That's awesome. That makes me so happy for some reason. It's probably my own health. But for real, grateful that you guys are here. Glad that you guys are here at Inside Out today. I know I say it every single week, but you guys could be anywhere during Sunday afternoons, but the fact that you guys are here at Inside Out, it means the world to me. What we're going to actually talk about, we're not just going to talk about Texas tonight, even though we could talk about it all night long. What we're really going to talk about tonight is we're going to talk about and start a series on the relationships in our life that on one hand can maybe provide us the most joy and the most contentment and the most comfortability. But then on the other hand, it's also at the very same time the relationships that maybe cause us the most chaos, maybe the most discontentment, and maybe the most uncomfortableness. Maybe the most tension that we experience in our life happens in the context of these relationships. It's the relationships where we love these people so much, we care about these people so much, but they're probably the reason why we're gonna have gray hair at a certain age. They're probably the reason where day after day, time after time, it can be an up and down roller coaster when we deal with and we have these type of relationships in our life. Really what we're gonna start over the next couple of weeks is we're gonna start a series on this idea of family. Now, family is one of the most important things that we could talk about in the context of Inside Out, and one of the most important conversations we have, because all of us in here, we have a family. And when I use that word family, I mean it in a couple different ways, right? I really mean the word family with whoever you guys consider family in your life. Whether that be a mom, a dad, parents, step-parents, maybe it's grandparents, maybe it's brothers, sisters, step-siblings, whoever it may be, whoever your guardians are, that's what I mean when I say the word family, okay? And when we say family, I think it's easy, and you guys could probably have this, expectation from me saying, oh, well, Matt's just gonna talk about for 3 weeks. He's just gonna be like, well, if I was just a better, child to my parents, or a better brother to my sister, or a better sister to my brother, or whatever it may be, then I would have a better family. Or maybe you're thinking, man, there's some expectation of family, like there's this perfect standard of family that we have to meet. And if my family was just like their family, or if I just had what they had, or if I grew up the way that they grew up, or if I was raised the way that they were raised, then I would be better off, especially in my 4 years of high school. I would have a better family experience. That is not what we're gonna talk about over the next 3 weeks. The reason why is because every single person in here, regardless if this is your first time or whatever you believe about God, the truth of the matter is we all have different family dynamics. So I say that on one hand to say, I'm not gonna do a great job of speaking to everybody's family dynamic, because everybody's family dynamic is different. But what I am going to try my best to do is to talk about and to lay out just what our goals are, what our hopes are, and why we're having this conversation, especially over the next 3 weeks, and especially at the beginning of the school year as well, because as we get into the routine and as we kind of get into the thick of it over the next couple months, we all have experienced the ups and downs that we can experience when it comes to our family. So to start this conversation tonight, really what I want to do is I want to lay out my goal for the series. The reason why a couple months ago I said, man, we've got to talk about this. We've got to talk about it, especially in the 4 years of high school. And regardless of whatever age you are, freshman all the way through senior, this is one of the most important conversations that we could have at Inside Out. So this is my goal, and this is my hope, and this is something that was instilled in me when I was in Inside Out a couple of years ago. My goal for doing this series is hopefully to get you guys into the posture or to see the perspective of when you don't have to be with your family, you want to be with your family. When there comes a day and when there comes a time when you don't have to be living in the same house or to abide by their rules, there is this longing, there is this desire, there is this hope that you have to say, man, I want to be with my family. Because the truth of the matter is regardless of whatever grade you are, if you're a senior all the way through freshman, there's going to be a time that you're going to move on to what's next. You might go to college. You might go join the workforce, might join the army, whatever it may be. You might move on to what is next for you. And there's going to be a time, whether that is college or whether you're my age, early 20s, or whether you're adult, where you're not going to have to be in the same house, where you don't have to be with your family. And my hope is that we can develop some tools and we can talk about some important ways where in that moment when we don't have to be with our family, there is this want, there is this desire to want to be with our family. And to kind of dive into what we're talking about tonight, what I want to talk about, I was researching for this over the last couple of weeks. I want to talk about a statistic that is true. That my hope is that maybe it gives you a different perspective, because sometimes when we don't have a perspective of time, we kind of just go through the motions. But hopefully this quote gives you a perspective of time that you have in high school, and sometimes how we don't maximize our time, and maybe the want or the desire to maximize our time, especially with our family. This is the quote that I looked at right up here. It says, by the age of 18, once you graduate high school and leave home for college or whatever's next for you, 90% of the time you'll spend with your parents is over. Now, when you hear that, small group leaders, that might have been a little bit depressing, but when you hear that, this is true. That 90% of the time that you'll ever spend with your parents, and I'm going to include siblings into that as well, just because you're living in the same house, right? 90% of all the time that you would ever spend with them happens before the age of 18 or before whatever's next for you after high school. Which means we have the majority of our time with our family left. And whether you're a senior or you're a freshman or anything in between, sometimes we can wait around and we can hope for things to change. We can say, man, I wish my family would be different or better. Or we keep kind of running to these circles of like, man, it's always like this with my mom. It's always like this with my dad. It's always like this with my brother and sister. It's always like this with my step-parent, whatever it may be. And we can hope for things to change, but the reality is that if this statistic is true, it means we can look at that and hope that things change, or there could be a different approach. And why would we not want a different approach? At least a different option to say, okay, if that's true, rather than me waiting on my hands and to say, okay, what's next? Is there something that maybe I can do? Is there something that I can bring into my family that maybe changes what I experience inside my house? That maybe changes my experience with my parents or my siblings as well? So that's what we want to talk about over the next couple of weeks. And tonight specifically, I want to tell you guys the number one thing that I saw not only in my life, that I see in my friends' lives, and that I see on the other side of students, that creates the biggest gap in family dynamics. The biggest gap in terms of where students are and where students want to be with their families. And the biggest gap that I see has everything to do with this word right up here, expectations. Expectations. So the reality is that we all have expectations in life in general. And the truth is with your family is that you have expectations for your family, and your family has expectations for you, right? You have expectations for your parents to be somewhere, right? Whether you play a sport or you're in choir or band, you have expectations for your parents to support you and show up in that way, right? You have expectations if you have siblings that they would keep their side of the room or their room clean, or they would do their chores. You have expectations for them, right? And the truth is, and you have all been on the other side of this, your family has expectations for you. Your parents have expectations for you. For some of you guys, you might think, okay, my parents have expectations for me to be home at a certain time tonight. My siblings have these expectations for me, right? We all live in this world of managing expectations. And sometimes in life, because we have these expectations, we desire and we long for our family to live up to these expectations. And let's just be real, your family wants to and desires for you to live up to these expectations that they have for you as well. And some of you guys have felt this. Some of your parents or your siblings' expectations for you have been communicated for you. But the biggest tension that we feel is when expectations are unmet, right? What happens when expectations are unmet, especially in the context of a house, especially in our relationships with our parents? We've all experienced this, and maybe it feels like you can't live up to your parents' expectations, or you can't live up to your siblings' expectations. But what happens when expectations are unmet? I want to give you guys like a visual of what this practically looks like and the emotion and the feelings that we can actually feel. So what I want to do is I want to bring up two brothers. I want to bring up Matthew and Nathan Norcross. If you guys can come up on stage, that would be great. Come up on stage. Come on, guys. Come on, Norcross brothers. There you go. You're already getting the support. Repping the Texas jersey. I like it. Go ahead and put one side on. There you go. Come on up, Matthew. You can go whatever way you want. All right, go ahead and put on this side. There you go. So, this resistance band represents a family. You guys are both Norcrosses, and after this, if you could tell your dad that I'm beating him in fantasy football, that would make me really happy. Okay, so this represents a family, and now I have a couple questions for you guys. Nathan, what is an expectation that you have for Matthew living in the same house?
I'd say room clean.
Room clean, okay? So Matthew, you just let him down, and you didn't clean your room. Y'all take a step in an opposite direction. Okay, there you go. All right, Matthew, your turn. What's an expectation you have for Nate?
Not wearing my clothes.
Not wearing your clothes, that's good. Let's just say you just put on all of his clothes, okay? Y'all take a step in different direction. Okay. What do you feel right now?
A lot of tension.
A lot of tension, right? A lot of tension. Nathan, what's another expectation you have for Matthew?
Not wearing my clothes.
Not wearing your clothes, okay. Here we go. Y'all take a step in a different direction. Let's just say you're wearing all of each other's clothes. So, the reality is, okay, you guys have all experienced this before, right? This tension. When you have expectations for your family and they let you down, right? Or they don't meet those expectations. Or you don't meet your parents' expectations and you don't meet your family's expectations. The reality is that this is the emotion, this tension right here. And we've all experienced tension within a household, right? How many of you guys think I should just let them stay up here the whole time and be in this painful? No, okay. I'll let you guys stop. Y'all give them a round of applause. Yeah, you're good. Thank you, guys. So, y'all bring it back up. What you guys just saw is you not only practically saw the gap, but you saw the tension. And sometimes tension can be unspoken, and sometimes it's not as blatant and obvious. But when you feel like you're not meeting a standard, and when you feel like your family's not meeting a standard, isn't that the feeling that we feel? We feel this tension. We hope something could change. We notice the gap, something's off, something's different. And if it's true, for real, if it's true that 90% of the time that we spend with our family happens in the context before 18, and especially in the 4 years of high school, why would we not want a different approach? Why would we not just want to at least have a counter offer? Why would we want to just wait around and say, man, I hope this gets better. I hope this changes. I hope my mom finally understands. I hope my dad finally understands. That's all good and well and fine, and if that works for you, let me know how that goes. But at least what I want to do over the next couple of weeks is provide a different approach. To say, okay, this is my perspective of my family, and again, every family dynamic is different, so I'm not going to speak to it perfectly. But if this is my perspective of my family, why would I not want a different approach with them? To maybe relieve some of the tension, to maybe say the gap doesn't have to be this big, or the same gap doesn't have to happen over and over and over and over again. Something can change. This is why I love Inside Out, because when I was a student and I had so many gaps with my family, so many gaps with my older sisters, so many gaps with my parents, when I had gaps in high school with my family, I felt like I could come to this place and one, be myself, two, belong, and two, really share what was on my heart with my family and why things felt so frustrating and why there were so many gaps that I was experiencing. And I could come to a group where I had small group leaders and I had a small group who supported me and cared for me and allowed me and gave me a different approach to my family. And I personally believe the effects and the influence that I felt at Inside Out changed the course and direction of my family's life and my family's togetherness over the course of the last 8 years. That's why I love Inside Out, because it was the very first time in my life where the pages of scripture weren't just pages to me anymore, but these were real people and real stories. And if you think your family's jacked up, if you think your family has a lot of problems, wait till you read the pages of scripture. Wait till you open up the pages of the Bible, because the Bible is full of imperfect and tension-filled families. If you really want to get a glimpse on what family drama is like, if you really want to get a glimpse on the ups and downs that families could experience together, open up the pages of the Bible. Because there are things, there are situations in there where we're not going to be able to relate to the specifics, but we can relate to the emotion of what these people have gone through, especially in the context of their family. And tonight what we're going to do is we're going to look at the story of one guy who, again, we're not going to relate to the specifics of it because none of us have experienced that before. But I want you to imagine as we go through his story, the emotions he may have felt with his family, all the ups and downs that came with it, and the unmet expectations that he had for his family, and his approach with his family could actually change everything about what you and I could experience in our family as well. Tonight what we're going to do is we're going to look at the story of a guy named Joseph. Joseph, his story is actually found in the first book of the Bible called Genesis. It's not on page 1 or 2. You're going to have to flip a few pages. But Joseph's story is one that is so incredible. And again, his approach can change what you and I experience in the context of our family dynamic as well. So I'm not going to read all of Joseph's story, but what I am going to do is I'm going to give you the Spark Notes version of what he experienced, okay? So here's how it starts off. Joseph had 11 brothers who hated him, despised him. You know why? Because he was his dad's favorite. How many of you guys have more than 3 siblings? Show of hands. Okay. Anybody have more than 10 siblings? Okay, nobody. So none of us can relate to that. But if you've ever felt before that your parents play favorites or that you might be the favorite or anything like that, you might be able to relate with Joseph a little bit. But Joseph had all 11 of his brothers who hated him because he was his dad's favorite. Because he was his dad's favorite and they hated him, they despised and they kind of came up with this plan to trick him, to trap him, and ultimately to get him away from the family. Talk about unmet expectations, right? They sold him into slavery. He was sold into slavery by his brothers. Now, none of us have that expectation for our family. That's an unmet expectation. And Joseph, imagine the pain. Imagine the sorrow. Imagine how much he trusted his family and they did this to him, right? Despite it all, despite everything he went through, all the ups, all the downs, everything that he experienced throughout this time, Joseph remained faithful to God. In the midst of our family dynamics, sometimes God is the first one to go. When we're going through the ups and downs and we're like, God, where are you? Why is this happening? Why can't I be like that family? God, you made me this way. We start blaming and putting it on God. Joseph in this moment said, you know what? I'm going to remain faithful to God. God, what do you have for me in this moment? That was Joseph's approach to this. And then because to the land that he was sold into, Egypt, he became second in command to Pharaoh. Pharaoh was the ruler of Egypt. And because he remained faithful to God and faithful to Pharaoh, what happened is he ultimately became second in command. He had this authority. He had this power now. He had this respect now. After all of these years, this happens over a long, long period of time, okay? And at the same time he became second in command, here's what happened. His family struggled to grow and produce food and became hungry. So that's how they ate back then. They had to grow their own food. They had to produce their own food. And because there was this widespread famine, because there was this widespread drought, they could not grow and produce their food. And so what does his family do? His family decides to go to Egypt, to go to the promised land, the one with the wealth, the one where they could actually help. And in this moment, his family, a lot of his family goes to Egypt and they run into Joseph, but they don't recognize him. Joseph immediately recognizes his family because of the pain, because of the sorrow, because of all the things that he had experienced with his family. But in this moment, his family, he sees his family vulnerable and weak and begging for food. And Joseph, now just in this moment, imagine if you're Joseph. Your family's done this to you. They did not meet any of your expectations. They actually hurt you in the face of unmet expectations. What would we do? Would we try to get them back? Would we hurt them? I mean, Joseph had all this respect and power. He could have thrown them in jail. He could have left them hungry. He could have left all of them worse off in this moment. And what we're about to read next is Joseph's approach that I think not only changed something for him, but if we brought this into our family even tonight, I think it could change what you experience in the context of your house as well. Here's where we pick up the story in Genesis. It starts this way. Now Jacob, who is Joseph's father, went and sent Judah, who is one of the 11 brothers, ahead of him to Joseph to get directions to Goshen. When they arrived in the region of Goshen, Joseph had his chariot made ready and went to Goshen to meet his father, Israel. Sometimes we think the Bible's confusing because they throw different names in there. Jacob, Israel, same person, same guy. That's all you guys need to know. As soon as Joseph appeared before him, this is their first interaction. This is them seeing each other. Imagine the emotions in this moment. What Joseph decided to do is he threw his arms around his father and wept for a long time. So if you guys remember the resistance band that was just up here, they were facing in opposite directions. There was a massive gap that created the tension. And anytime there was an unmet expectation and they took a step in the different direction, that's when the tension became stronger. Joseph decided, he said, I have this power, I have this respect, I have this authority. I could get even. I could do what they did to me. I could hurt them the way that they hurt me, and I could take another step away from them. But the reality is that's just going to create more tension. What Joseph decided to do is he was here, and he decided to turn back towards his family. And he decided to embrace the imperfections, embrace the awkwardness, embrace the uncomfortableness, embrace the pain, embrace the hurt, in the face of unmet expectations. See, what Joseph realized is he had a choice in how the relationship would go. I think in high school, sometimes we forget, and maybe it doesn't feel like this all the time. Like, Matt, I don't have a whole lot of choices when it comes to my family, right? It feels like their expectations for me, I don't have a whole lot of choices when it comes to what I experience in my family. I would push back maybe a little bit. Again, I don't know everybody's family dynamic, but I would imagine that this statement is still true for you. That at the end of the day, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everybody. So you may have a choice in how the relationship goes. And again, I don't know what that choice is. I'm not going to speak to your family dynamic perfectly. But maybe there is something that we can do to take a step. If we feel like we're going this way and there's this tension with us, maybe there's something we can do to turn back and take a step towards our family. And what he chose to do is he chose to move in their direction. He chose to move in his family's direction. Even though his family came to Egypt, even though his family came begging, what he did in that moment is he chose to say, you know what, we could go this way, but I'm deciding to go this way. In the face of unmet expectations, he chose to embrace his imperfect family. Again, you've probably realized, maybe by the point of me talking tonight, or maybe in your 18 and younger years of life, you may have realized that your family's imperfect, that there's some imperfections there, that there's some expectations that they've dropped the ball on, that there's expectations placed on you that you may feel like you're never gonna reach, right? But when that happens, what would it look like for us? Rather to say, man, I have these expectations and you're never gonna meet them, therefore I'm gonna keep walking in different directions. What would it look like to say, you know what? What would it look like to embrace the imperfections? To not hold it against them, to move back in their direction. And what does that practically look like? And what I want to preface here is to not say that you shouldn't have expectations for your family or that your family shouldn't have expectations for you. That is not what I'm saying. Expectations are fair. It is fair for you to want your parents at the game. It is fair for you to want your sibling to clean their room. And I know it goes deeper, and I know there's bigger examples than that. I'm not saying expectations are wrong or bad. What I'm saying is when somebody doesn't meet them, we have a choice to make. So I want to give you guys two things that you can do today, tonight, before you walk back into your home. Something that you can do. If you feel like there's tension any point in your home, there's something that we can do to maybe turn in the different direction and embrace our imperfect family. The first one that we're going to talk about tonight is not just a family thing, it is like a life thing, any relationship thing. This is a thing for your friendships, for your dating relationships, and with your relationship with your parents, your step-parents, your siblings, whoever it may be. The first thing I would want you guys to do is to practice communicating expectations. If expectations are fair, and we have them, and they have them for us, what would it look like to actually communicate those expectations? And here's what I mean by this. If you feel like your parents have let you down in any way, do they even know how they let you down? If you feel like your brother or your sister has let you down in any way, do they even know how they let you down? See, this is, again, a life thing, but when you communicate expectations, and I know it's hard, but this is part of embracing the awkwardness and embracing the uncomfortableness, but I promise you, when you take this step in this direction, and say, Mom, Dad, these are my expectations. Because let me just tell you, they have expectations for you, and you're probably like, they clearly communicated those to me, or maybe they haven't, right? But when you embrace that uncomfortable conversation, what happens is you get it all out there. and you give them a standard to potentially meet. You give them the opportunity to meet those expectations or not, rather than saying, you know what, they're never gonna do it, so I'm never gonna try. This is your opportunity to try. This is your opportunity to take a step in their direction, right? It's saying, you know what, I'm gonna move in your direction before I ever expect you to move in mine. And that takes a lot of courage, and that takes a lot of guts. But when you choose to do that, you are doing whatever you possibly can do to live at peace with everybody. Because as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. That's the first one. Practice communicating expectations. The second thing, and the last thing, is to be curious with your family, right? Know their story. Know where they came from, right? You expect them to know everything about you, but what would it look like for you to lean in rather than pull away? Say, I'm gonna be curious about my dad. I'm gonna be curious about my mom. I'm gonna be curious about my older sister and how they were raised, right? The reason I say this is being curious with my family changed my perspective on how I was raised. And it changed my perspective on how I saw my dad and how I saw my mom. I'll give you guys an example. My first counseling appointment was semi about me, but it was mostly about my family. My counselor sits me down, and I share my story with him, and he goes, okay, Matt, tell me about your relationship with your mom. So I share about my relationship with my mom and talk about the highs and talk about the lows with that, and then he's like, okay, tell me about your relationship with your dad. So I share the highs and I share the lows with that, and I talk a little bit more about how when I was younger, I could tell my dad was stressed. I could tell when his anger was high. I could tell when I was scared, when it felt like it was a little much. And he was like, okay, now tell me about your dad's relationship with his mom. And I thought about my grandmother, I thought about my Nana, and I was like, well, I think that's the reason my dad has gray hair, is because of his relationship with his mom. Because every single time I'm in a same room with them, it feels like they're always arguing, they're always bickering, they're always stubborn together, and it just kind of feels like, man, what is happening here? It feels like there's just so much tension and so much stress. And he goes, okay. Now tell me about your dad's relationship with his dad, your grandfather. And I go, I don't really know. I don't know my grandfather. He died a year before I was born. All I really know about him is that he was a good guy based off what my dad said. He loved Boston sports, but he had cancer 4 times, and I never got to meet him. And so my counselor looks at me and he goes, okay, Matt, here's what I want you to do this week. I want you to take your dad out to lunch. And I was like, do I have to pay? I don't really have money, but I'll take my dad out to lunch. So I'll take my dad out to lunch, and I want you to ask him questions about what it was like growing up in that house with his mom and his dad. I said, okay. So I took my dad out. We had lunch, and I'm asking him questions about what was it like growing up? What was it like when you were my age? What was it like when you were 12, when you were 18? What was it like growing up? My dad at the beginning was like, oh man, it was good. It was good. And I was like, no, really, what was it like? Were there high moments? Were there rough moments? And what I realized in that conversation is I gained a different perspective of how my dad raised me because of how he was raised. Because of the life and the story that he had. Because I saw my dad's anger in a different way. Because when I realized that he grew up in a household where anger was always justified, and anger was always the go-to, and angry over things that were level 1s and levels 2s, right? When that happened, right, it was one of those things where I started to understand a little bit more of why that became a reality for me. And you know what? I was able to have grace for my dad. Not excuses. Oh, I understand why he yelled now. I understand. That's not it. But I was able to understand a little bit more of why some of the things I experienced actually happened. Have you ever wondered why your mom has expectations for you in a certain way? Have you ever wondered why your dad may have expectations for you? You ever wondered why your older sibling is trying to give you advice? If you don't know why, maybe it's time to be curious, to lean in, to take a step and say, why? Tell me what it's like. Those are the 2 things: practice communicating expectations and to be curious about your family. And we could talk about the what all day long, but again, the why is so important. And if it's true that we spend the majority of time we will ever spend with our family before the age of 18 and before we're out of the house, then this is one of the most important things that we could ever do with our 4 years of high school. And if you're a senior, it is not too late. If you're a junior, it is not too late. Things could change, but it takes us to maybe say, you know what, I'm not going to add to the tension by walking away. I'm going to do what I can do to take a step in this direction. And when we really get to the heart of it, and if you're a Christian, this is so important. The heart of it is that this was God's posture towards us. There was a standard. There was a set agenda. We could never meet it. We would fall short every single time. And rather than God turning his back and walking another way and adding to the tension, he decided to embrace our imperfections. He decided to move in our direction. Paul says this, while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Jesus coming into the world to live a life that you and I cannot live, to die a death that ultimately we deserved. We were able to reconcile, and he was able to reconcile our relationship with God. He embraced our imperfections, so much so he was willing to die for us. The least we can do is to think about our family dynamic, to say, who in my family and what could I do to embrace my imperfect family this week? That's what I would love for us to talk about in the context of our small groups. Let me pray for us, and then we'll break. Father God, you are so good. God, we're grateful for everything that you give us in this life, the opportunity to connect with one another, to connect with you. Father, to have a place like InsideOut where we can belong and we can grow in our relationships with one another and in our relationship with you. Father, we're thankful that you made the first move, that you moved in our direction, that you cared about us and loved us so much, that you were willing to send Jesus into the world for us. And God, I want to lift up all these students here. Would you give them the courage to maybe embrace the hard conversations, to embrace the imperfections they may face in their family? Father, to give themselves the grace anytime they feel like they're not meeting an expectation or a standard. And Father, I pray that for their curiosity this week as they embrace their imperfect family. God, we love you and we can't do it without you. It's in Jesus' name, amen. All right, y'all, we're going to break off into small groups. If you're a part of or Laura or Kayla's freshman girls, you guys stay back for a second. Thank you so much.
And it was so